Hey guys, it's Stephanie and I'm here today guys with part one of my December wrap up. I read a lot of books in December, so I'm going to talk about the first chunk of them with you here today. And the first book I read in December was Hello from the Gillespies by Monica McInerney. I have no idea if I said that last name right. I really feel like I didn't. This was a kind of Christmas novel set in Australia, which was something I've never read before. And the premise of this story is basically this woman who kind of lives on a sheep farm in Australia, has a very dysfunctional family and issues with her children and adult children and husband. And every year she kind of writes this Christmas letter talking about everything that happened that year and being very cheery and upbeat. And then one year she just kind of gets her Christmas letter and is just absolutely honest about everything that's going on with her family. And of course, as it would happen, she saves it as a draft in her emails, and then someone thinking they're doing her a favor sends it out to absolutely everyone they know. So it's just all this chaos going on, and I really liked the first half of it. But then there is an event in the middle of the book that kind of serves as the catalyst that brings the whole family back together, and I just rolled my eyes at it. I really did not like that whole twist at all. But I thought it had an overall good premise. It was very readable. I think I gave it 3 stars, maybe a little under, like 2 3/4 stars. It was a little forgettable. I just really was not a fan of that plot maneuver at all. The next book I read was actually a book that made it to my favorites list at the end of the year, and of course that is Kate Atkinson's Life After Life. This is about a woman who every time she dies, she kind of goes back to the beginning and starts over and is reborn, and you infer that she has a mission that she's kind of here for. You as the reader were kind of trying to see her get this mission right, and it was just absolutely fascinating. I definitely recommend this book. The next book I read was a graphic novel that I heard about on the Literary Disco podcast, and that was My Friend Dahmer by Derf, Backderf, which I think is a pseudonym. I think they talked about that on the podcast, that that's not really his name. But this was nonfiction. This was kind of a graphic novel memoir about a man who went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer, and kind of talking about the experience and what he was like in high school. He did a bit of research into what his family life was like. He watched a lot of interviews with him. You can definitely tell a lot of research went into this book, because if you go to the back, he has sources cited for some of the images he has drawn. Like, he has stuff that takes place, you know, in Jeffrey Dahmer's house. And he makes a note like, I visited his house once, you know, when the next person bought it, so that's why I know what it looks like, and this and that. It was just very interesting that he was that in-depth and had that much, you know, integrity to source out even just drawings. It was very fascinating, and if that is something that sounds interesting to you at all, I definitely suggest picking it up. It was really interesting. The next book I read was also a graphic novel memoir. That was Relish, My Life in the Kitchen by Lucy, I'm also going to pronounce this name wrong, Lucy Knisley. So this is a graphic novel memoir about a girl who ends up becoming a food critic, but both of her parents were really into food. You know, they wanted to serve their daughter nothing but the best food and kind of mold their child into having a very sophisticated palate and eating only the best. And so she talks about that kind of upbringing, you know, all surrounded around food, and her parents' relationship and the years she spent with her mother kind of living on a farm and, you know, growing their own food and getting things at farmers markets. It was just really, really interesting. I actually just checked out her second book, French Milk, which is also a graphic novel memoir about her time in France. So I am really looking forward to getting to that because of how much I enjoyed Relish. The next book I read was also because of the Literary Disco podcast, and this is Tom Franklin's Crooked Letter. And this was a very well written book. I think my only issue with it is that it was kind of marketed as a mystery, and I felt like the mystery was very predictable in that I feel like there was only one valid person that could be a suspect, and of course that person ended up being guilty of what I suspected him of. It was not much of a mystery. Don't go into this thinking it's a mystery, okay? I would go into this thinking it is the story of a small town and racial tensions and some family secrets that I also figured out right away. But that one did not take away from my enjoyment of this book. It is really well written, and it explores a lot of very interesting topics. So I would definitely recommend this book. The next book I read was Stillwater Saints by Alex Espinosa. I have talked about this recently. I feel like I've talked about this in a few of my videos, but I haven't really like talked about it. This follows a woman who lives in a fictional small town in Southern California, and she runs a shop where she dispenses like herbal cures. Her work is a little like Mexican, new agey, a little bit of superstitious stuff going on. And the book is told in alternating chapters between her perspective and things that she is dealing with, and then the other chapters are about the people that go to see her and the stuff they are going through, and those are kind of told like standalone short stories. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. You guys know how much I love like that Latino magical realism stuff, so this was just absolutely great. And I love novels that are split up into short stories, so this is a book that was just made for me. Got 5 stars, loved it. I thought the writing was great. Just yes, it was just a yes from me. I was so happy. So yes, if any of those things sound interesting to you, please go pick that up. I haven't heard a lot about it, probably because it was published in like 2008. So I feel like it kind of came and went, but please go read it. It was great. Then the last book for this section that I read was The Children by Ann Leary. I heard this mentioned on the What Should I Read Next podcast, and it sounded really interesting because it was a family drama about like a wealthy East Coast old money family, and it kind of goes into the issues when you have a blended family, you know, with stepchildren from different marriages, and then the strain that gets put on those relationships when it comes to inheritances. So that was really, that part of it was really interesting. I thought the writing was great. I don't know, I felt like the characters were a little too quirky, and there was a lot of focus on trying to make them really quirky. I found most of it pretty forgettable, and just it wasn't a memorable read in my mind. It really didn't stand out with the other family dramas that I had read. So that was that, guys. That is the first part of my December wrap up. If you can remember what was something you enjoyed reading in December, if not, totally fine. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!